Yes, welcome back. At this point, I would want to test all these three computers to see if they are all connected to the internet. So I'm going to recap on this. Um, this is the firewall. You can see Ubuntu, Firewall, XP, and Windows 7 are all running. So under the firewall property, because it's serving as the router, we need to have two interface network cards. I'll go to the settings, then I'll look out for the two network cards under networks. So the first one is the adapter initially, and the second one is also the internal network. So it means the name that I put in here should be the name that I give to each of these internal networks. But because this is a firewall and a router, the first network card, which I specified, is going to be a network address translation. That is what I'll use mainly because there are two options to use here. Now, when you use network address translation, whichever network card on the host computer that have access to internet will be picked by this particular setting. On the other hand, if you should use bridge adapter, the bridge adapter will drop down all the network adapters or cards that are inside the host computer. Then you select the one that has internet access to it. In my case, I have internet on the wireless, which is the Killer Wireless NACAT um, network adapter. That is where I have the internet access on. So I can select this one. In other cases too, it could be your internet will probably be on the your normal local area network, which is the network card that is displayed over here. Let me see if I can go to the host machine and bring this up for you to see what I mean. So NCPA is going to bring the host, then the network control panel. So this is the network control panel. So you can see I have access to internet on this one, which is um, the Killer Wireless, whatever that is being specified. This is where internet is. This is also this is a network port on the computer, and this is the virtual machine network adapter. These come with the virtual box or the VMware software. So this is where internet is. So I'm recapping again. If you use bridge, then it means bridging is just a way of assuming you have two. And let me see if I can. Um, Let me put it this way. Assuming you have an 8-port switch, a switch, and you have another 8-port switch, but in your environment, you have about let's say 13 people in your company, and you want all of them to have an internet access. So you would have to find a way to get to get a switch that can either accommodate all the 13, or if you have a simple switch, which is probably 8-port switch, you can get two of them, two of the 8-port switch, or you can even get a 24-port switch. That alone, you can plug in all the clients or client computers directly into it. But in a situation where you have maybe an 8-port switch, but you have 13 clients in your organization, then it means you can have two 8-port switch or hub. Then in doing so, one of the ports, which is probably the 7th or the 8th port, you can connect a network cable from the 7th port or the 8th port to the other switch. So that is bridging. So you connect a network card, a network cable to the port 8 of the first switch, 8-port switch. Then you would connect the other end of the network card to also maybe the 8th or the first port on the 8-port switch of the second 8-port switch. So the cable in itself at this particular point serves as a bridge. So we are bridging two networks. We are bridging the network from switch A to switch B, which are all 8-port switches. So in that case, You can see we have 7, so making 14. So in that case, we need about 13 ports. So all the 13 people can be, we can have 7 of them on the port switch A, and we can have 6 of them in switch B. So that is how bridging works. So if I'm bridging, I use bridge adapter, then it means I'm more or less virtually connecting a network cable from the pfSense firewall network card to the wireless network card. So when they are bridged together, the internet in switch A will also be found on switch B. So in this case, the internet on the bridge adapter, which is the internet on the bridge adapter, which is my wireless host, my wireless card, which is on the host machine, will now send internet to the adapter the um, of the pfSense firewall, which is this one, which is the virtual firewall. So that is one way of also doing it. So when you do this selection, you have access from the host. Internet access on the host will be now directed, will be bridged to the network ports of the firewall, as you can see here. So there are two of them. You either use a NAT or um, you either use a NAT or you either use the bridge adapter. Any of them would work. So for the purposes of this, I will use the bridge to pick up an IP from here. So now from here you can see I also have adapter 2, which is the second network. I told you routers have 2 or more network cards. So a minimum of 2 network cards needs to be in place for you to route from one network to the other. So this is the second network card for the router, which is internal network, and I'm calling it IntNet. So it means all, so I've saved this one. It means all the computers that we have here in the virtual environment, we have to check their networking and make sure we have set them all up onto an internal network called IntNet. So when we have an internal network, like like the way you saw this one, this picture, like the way you saw this picture, when we have all these, you can see all these ones are on the local area network. If I move to the second one too, you can see all the ones here are on the local area network of this particular hub. And this hub is also serving as a wireless router because it has 2 network cards minimum. There's a this is the local area network, and this will go to the one. So that is how it works. So I've selected a network, a switch with an internal network called IntHub for each of them, Ubuntu, for XP, and all of that. So when I've done that for all of these computers, it means all these computers will be able to talk to each other on the same local area network. All right, so the next thing that you have to bear in mind is I told you DNS is very important whenever you think of internet connectivity on any network. So I'll go to the services, and the services, I'll look out for the DHCP server. The DHCP server is enabled here, and it is what gives IP addresses to the client computers or the host or the nodes on the network. If you recall from the command line interface, I specified the range of the I think I might have missed that one. So at this point I specify from 192.168.1.10. So .100, no, I think .10 was .20. I can start from .20. So IP addresses would be in the range from 20.20 to maybe 120. In fact, whatever we did in the client command line interface can also be done here. You can do the correction and make all the necessary changes in here. And see, it's also on a slash 2024. So this is very key to me. So the DNS is very important to me. So you type in a Google DNS, which is 8.8.8.8, or you can also type you can also make this firewall or router, also a DNS. So that would be the secondary DNS that we have here. So I'll put that one also here. When I'm done, I'll just save this one. So when these settings are done, then I can try to browse or go to the internet to see if it works. So let's see. All right, you can see it is opening. If I click on Google, Google is also opening. And mind you, you don't necessarily have to do the configuration of the pfSense in XP. I chose to do it in XP. Anybody, any network, any host on the network can have access to it once they know of the IP address. So you can see the website is up. This one is also up. So I have internet access. So internet access on my computer is now moved onto the virtual computer through the router, which is the pfSense, which also serves as the firewall. There are certain configuration that we might also talk about along the line. All right, so now let me go, this is on XP, so I can browse on XP. Let me see if I can also browse on Windows 7. So I'll go back to Windows 7. So this is Windows 7. Oh, it looks like I can browse on Windows 7. Let me see. Let me see, Ghana home, GhanaWeb.com. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Let's try Google. Oh, okay, it's opening. Let's try Google to us and see. Maybe Google will load fast. Okay, Google is loading very fast. Ghana Web is also opening. You can see from the title bar that it's opening. Now, one powerful thing about this type of firewall is you can create some sort of restrictions on the on your network. So if you are in an organization and you use a pfSense as a firewall, you can restrict the bandwidth that is allocated for every individual on the network. You can even tell it that, hey, at this point from 8 a.m. to maybe 12 noon, no student should be able to have access to YouTube. YouTube is only available after 12, or Facebook is only available after 12, especially when you use the university network. Okay, you can see I'm able to browse on the Windows 7. Let me try and also browse on the Ubuntu. That's Ubuntu 20. Let's see. I hope it's not gone. Yes, Ubuntu is off. Let me close and start it again. I hope it boosts. It boosts fast. Okay, so let me see. I'll start Ubuntu 7 OS quickly. So now I know I can browse on Windows XP. I can also browse on Windows 7, and it's very obvious we'll be able to browse on Ubuntu as well. So whilst we wait for it to come up, um, I'll try and do some few things. So the network that we have here is more or less similar to this type of network. So in this at this point we have the pfSense server over here, and from there we've been able to set up a network um, more or less using the virtual box to set up a network for these computers and these computers. But we just have XP, Windows 7, and Windows and Linux. if we had a wireless network card over here, I can also find a way to also broadcast that one for wireless computers or PCs to connect onto it. So this is basically how we can use pfSense. So from here, you can see it's a firewall, and these firewalls are connected to the modem, and this modem is connected to the internet. So the internet service provider will always give you a modem, which is the modulation demodulation, and you connect maybe part of it to the pfSense. Once this is connected to it, means you have access to the internet, so you can always connect onto the internet and do other things. All right, so the next video, there are some few things that I'll talk about. So this is how to get access onto the internet using um, pfSense as the firewall or router. In this case, router and also DHCP to give IP addresses to the computer and checking to see if each of these computers have access to the internet. And there's one thing that I would want to briefly talk about. So from here, if we were to have, let's say, if we were to have maybe XAMPP installed over here on Windows 7 and we were running a website over here, once we know the IP address of the Windows 7, we can go to XP and browse the websites that is found on Windows 7 because they are all on the local area network. The same thing is what has been shown over here. Okay, so this one. The same thing is what has been shown over here with Windows XP. We are able to access the pfSense firewall because it is also on the same network as the Windows XP. So we are able to access it directly with the IP address. Now let me try and access the pfSense firewall also from this computer, from the Ubuntu server, Ubuntu OS. So I've launched the browser. Let's come up. While we wait for it to come up, so you can see when I launch the browser, automatically we're able to go to Ghana Web. So we have access to the internet on this one too. This is what I want to do. Because this computer and all four computers are on the same file on the same local area network, I should be able to access the firewall also from here, HTTPS, using the IP address 192.168.254. Of course, it's trying to access using HTTPS. Sorry, I think I went back to the previous page. All right, so go to advanced. It's still the same IP. Accept the risks and continue. Then I can also log in. I can change my password. I hope it's right. Okay, so on the Ubuntu 2, I've been able to access the firewall graphical user interface through the browser, mainly because they are all on the same network. All right, so in this video, we've learned how to configure the network adapter and port correctly to be able to have access to the internet, which is on your host as host computer. So first of all, the internet is on your host. It is sent to one of the network ports of the firewall, which is the wide area network. Then the internet is also moved to the local area network, which is the 192.168.1.0 subnet, .0 IP addresses with a subnet of 24, which is which were specified. So you have access to the internet through these basic configuration. There are other things that this powerful firewall can do. We'll talk about some of them, and I'm sure I'll give you one or two for you to do yourself and probably present. Thank you very much.